Let me describe something, and tell me if it sounds familiar. You walk into a room, and within seconds, before a single word is spoken, you know exactly what the mood is. Whether there's tension underneath the polite conversation, whether someone is pretending to be okay, whether the energy in the room is safe or not. And nobody taught you how to do that. You just always could. Or maybe you've sat with a song for hours because one lyric hit something so deep inside you that you couldn't quite explain it to anyone else. Or you've ended a conversation physically exhausted, not from what was said, but from everything that wasn't said that you felt anyway. Most people will tell you that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But psychology says something completely different. What you have isn't a flaw in your wiring. It's a rare form of depth, a way of processing the world that makes you extraordinarily perceptive, deeply compassionate, and more connected to reality than most people ever get. And today, we're going to name it. All 10 signs of it. Pay special attention to sign 10, because it's the one you've spent the most of your life being ashamed of. And it turns out to be the most powerful thing about you. Let's begin.
You've never been able to just walk into a space and feel nothing. For most people, a room is just a room. For you, it's a completely different experience. Before anyone has said a single word to you, before you've made eye contact with anyone, you already know. You know if someone had an argument before you arrived. You know if the person laughing the loudest is the one struggling the most. You know which corner of the room you need to avoid and which person is carrying something heavy today. This isn't intuition in a mysterious sense. It's your nervous system doing what it was built to do. Processing microsignals and facial expressions, posture, vocal tone, and body language at a speed that bypasses conscious thought entirely. Neuroscientists call this the social brain network. In people who feel deeply, this network runs at a higher sensitivity than average. The downside is that you often leave social events more tired than when you arrived. Not because you did anything exhausting, but because you were quietly carrying everybody else's emotional weight the entire time, without anyone asking you to, and without being able to stop. The question isn't why you do this. The question is, now that you know what's happening, how do you stop losing yourself in other people's rooms?
Most people scroll past difficult content and move on within seconds. You close the app, and 3 hours later, you're still thinking about it. It could be a video of an animal being mistreated, a story about a child who was failed by the adults around them, a clip of someone being publicly humiliated for entertainment. While others in the room say, "That's awful," and return to their conversation, something in you can't let it go. You sit with it. You feel it in your body. Sometimes you dream about it. This is not weakness. This is what psychologists call high empathic resonance, the brain's mirror neuron system firing so strongly that your internal experience genuinely maps onto the experience of the person or animal you're observing. You don't just understand that they're suffering. Some part of your nervous system actually experiences a shadow of it with them. This is why you're selective about what you watch, who you're around, and what you expose yourself to. People who don't feel this way sometimes call you fragile. You're not fragile. You're porous. And there's a significant difference between those two things.
You love people. You genuinely enjoy connection. But there is a specific kind of exhaustion that only arrives after you've been around others for too long. And the only cure for it is solitude. Not because you're antisocial, not because something is wrong with your social skills, but because every interaction you have costs more than it costs the average person. You're not just talking, you're processing. You're noticing, you're feeling, you're translating. You're managing your own internal response to everyone else's internal experience. That's 4 levels of cognitive and emotional work happening simultaneously in every conversation. When you finally get alone time, the silence isn't empty. It's restorative. It's where you decompress everything you absorbed. It's where your nervous system is allowed to return to its baseline. Without it, you function, but at a significant cost that compounds over days. The people in your life who love you but don't feel this way will sometimes take your need for alone time personally. It isn't personal. It's maintenance. The way certain plants need less sun than others, not because they're broken, but because that's what their biology requires to thrive.
You've tried to explain it and couldn't. The way a particular chord progression makes something crack open in your chest. The way certain paintings hold you in place without any reason you can name. The way a film ending stays in your body for days, replaying not as a memory, but as a physical sensation. For you, art isn't entertainment. It's contact. It's one of the few places in your life where something outside of you matches the intensity of what's inside, where you don't have to translate, soften, or justify the depth of your experience, because the depth is built into the thing itself. Research on highly sensitive people, a term coined by psychologist Elaine Aron, consistently shows that aesthetic experiences produce a measurably stronger neurological response in people with deep emotional processing. Your brain isn't being dramatic when it reacts this way to music. It's doing exactly what your nervous system was built to do: process experience at full resolution instead of compressed. The world needs people like you to feel things this completely. Art doesn't exist without an audience that actually receives it. You're not too sensitive. You're exactly sensitive enough. Everything looks fine. The person in front of you is saying all the right things, smiling at the right moments, using exactly the right words. And yet, something in you flags it. A quiet internal signal that doesn't have a name, but refuses to be dismissed. You can't point to what gave it away. Maybe the timing of their smile was a fraction too deliberate. Maybe their eyes didn't change when the rest of their face did. Maybe the story was slightly too smooth, with none of the imperfection that real experiences carry. Your brain caught something your conscious mind couldn't articulate. And often, not always, but often, you turn out to be right. The thing you sensed eventually reveals itself, which is both validating and isolating, because in the moment, when you had no proof, you looked like the paranoid one. Dr. Paul Ekman's research on microexpressions, the involuntary facial movements that reveal genuine emotion, shows that most people miss them entirely. People with deep emotional processing catch them automatically. It's not a mystical power. It's your nervous system running a more sophisticated signal detection program than the one most people are.
You've been called indecisive, overthinking, unable to just pick something and move on. And you've tried to explain that it's not indecision. It's that you genuinely process more variables than the average person before arriving at a choice. When you're deciding whether to take a job, end a friendship, move to a new city, you're not just weighing pros and cons. You're running a full emotional simulation of every outcome. How will this feel 6 months from now? How will the people involved be affected? What am I not seeing? What is this decision actually about underneath the surface question? This isn't a processing defect. Research on highly sensitive people shows they consistently make more nuanced decisions over time. They miss fewer edge cases, account for more human variables, and experience less regret than fast decision makers. The cost is the speed. The benefit is the quality. The world built for quick decisions will sometimes frustrate you, But most of the things the world gets quietly wrong are the things that needed one more moment of consideration that nobody gave them. Your slowness is accuracy in disguise.
You can handle difficult conversations. You can handle conflict, disagreement, even anger, because at least those things are real. What you genuinely cannot sustain is performance, inauthenticity, the exhausting effort of pretending that surface interactions are enough. When you're around someone who isn't being genuine, who is performing a version of themselves for the audience present, something in you works overtime trying to reconcile what's being said with what's actually true. You're translating constantly, reading between every line, and it is profoundly draining in a way you struggle to explain without sounding elitist or judgmental. This is why your friendships are few but deep. You'd rather have one conversation that actually reaches something real than 10 evenings of polite, pleasant nothing. You aren't antisocial. You're authenticity-seeking. And in a world that rewards performance over truth, that makes you feel out of place more often than not. The person who can hold a real conversation with you, who doesn't require you to maintain a mask or perform a social script, that person is worth more to you than 100 pleasant acquaintances. And you protect that kind of connection with everything you have.
There is a pattern in your life that you may have noticed, but never quite named. People tell you things they've never told anyone else. Strangers open up to you in situations where they would normally stay closed. Friends reach for you first when something breaks. You are a chosen confidant in almost every relationship you have. Not because you asked for it, but because something about you makes people feel safe enough to be real. And you hold what they give you. You don't share it. You don't use it. You carry it. Sometimes for longer than they carry it themselves. Because you can't figure out how to put it down once you've felt it. The gift? You are genuinely capable of witnessing other people's pain without turning away. In a world where most people are uncomfortable with real suffering, you offer something rare. True presence. The willingness to stay. The cost? You sometimes forget to ask who is holding yours. The person everyone comes to for strength rarely allows themselves to appear in need of it. This is the part of this sign that matters most. You deserve to be held too, not just to be the one who holds.
When there is conflict in a room, even between other people, even on a television screen, you feel it in your body. Your chest tightens, your breathing changes. Something inside you wants to fix it, smooth it, make it stop. Not out of fear, exactly, but because the dissonance of it is genuinely uncomfortable to your nervous system. This is why you are often the peacemaker, the one who finds the compromise before anyone else thought to look for it, the one who can see both sides of an argument clearly enough to translate between them. You were built for mediation, not because conflict doesn't affect you, but because it affects you so much that resolving it is the only tolerable option. The shadow of this gift is that you will sometimes absorb conflict as if it is yours when it isn't, taking on responsibility for emotional atmospheres you did not create and cannot fully control. Learning to be present for conflict without becoming it is one of the more advanced lessons your depth asks of you. You bring peace to rooms that haven't asked for it. That is not nothing. That is a form of quiet leadership that rarely gets named.
This is the sign most people skip over or dismiss because it's the hardest to explain without sounding like you're being dramatic. You carry a longing, not for a specific thing, not for a person, a place, a version of your life you once had, just a longing, a quiet ache that sits in your chest sometimes for no identifiable reason. A sense that there is something more, something reachable, something just beyond the ordinary surface of daily life that you can almost feel but never quite hold. Most people don't have this, or if they do, it frightens them enough that they fill it immediately with noise, with distraction, with anything that makes it go away. You have learned. If you recognized yourself in any of these 10 signs, I want to say something directly to you. You are not too much. You are not a problem to be managed. You are someone who experiences the world at a depth that most people never access. And that means you understand things, feel things, and carry things that most people never will. That is not a burden you chose, but it is a capacity that belongs entirely to you. The sensitivity that exhausts you, it is the same sensitivity that makes you extraordinary at love, at creativity, at understanding, at being the person someone remembers for the rest of their life because you saw them in a way nobody else did. That's the exchange, and it is worth it. Which of these 10 signs felt most like you? I want to know, genuinely. Leave it in the comments, not just because it helps the channel, but because naming it is the first step to understanding it. And you've been carrying this unnamed for long enough. If this video helped you understand